Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We've had a nice little break, haven't we? So,
Yes, you particularly. A lifestyle change.
100%. Yeah, one baby is very different to two. And I'm not sure I would recommend two under two, but I'm in it now.
You're
So,
a brave woman.
yeah. No, it has been lovely. Anyway, my name's Leah and I'm joined by Sue. Hi,
Hi,
Sue.
hi, Leah.
How have you been?
Oh, you've got a special guest there.
I do have a special guest just out of view for obvious reasons.
Yeah,
Actually on the boob at the moment.
yeah.
He's a bit of a Velcro baby, but he's lovely.
And he was a big boy, wasn't he?
He was a big boy, £10 too.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, I've just really seen how women in Australia, and I'm only going from my experience, but I've heard other women say it too,
yeah,
that they're just the obsession with cesareans and interventions and drugs, I just find so I find it very, very worrying that women are put in that position in that most vulnerable time of
yeah,
giving birth. And I just don't feel like we're listened to.
yeah,
And I feel like women are infantilized and told that their bodies are incapable. And I'm just really seeing it now, especially with this gender identity madness,
mm,
how little regard women and mothers are given.
yeah,
And we are told that our bodies are incapable. And we're basically referred to as men without dicks, aren't we? If a
yeah.
man can be a woman, if you
No man would be able to give birth. It would be too much. They get the man flu.
one would do it once and then no man would ever do it again.
Yeah. Do you
Um,
remember that trans woman that he said that he wanted to be the first trans woman that got pregnant so he could terminate the pregnancy?
And I want to be the first trans woman to have an abortion. I will let a doctor who has successfully transplanted a uterine complex before cut the organs out of a willing, healthy, transmasculine donor, place them in my body. I will devote myself, heart and soul, to their aftercare. I will have as much gay sex as it takes, with as many trans women as it takes, and let the transphobes and homophobes scratch their heads, wondering what to make of it. And I want to be the first trans woman to have an abortion.
mm,
What an insane thought.
well, they are insane.
Yeah,
I'm just not prepared to think about these men as anything other than just insane anymore.
yeah, that's true. Yeah. How can you look at it any other way?
Mm. I don't have any sympathy. I don't, all the talk about a man having a baby as well is just crazy. Anyone ever goes along with that, and if anyone ever thinks that a man will ever get pregnant,
Mm.
they're insane as well. A man will never be able to do that for just the most obvious reasons that we don't even have to talk about because they're so obvious.
Well, they think a woman can have a penis, so is it if you can believe
But
that,
do they really? Does anyone really believe that? Really, really?
well, you wouldn't think so, would you? You'd hope not.
You'd hope not, but yeah. I mean, I find it very hard to believe that even the men pretending to be women really believe that they're women.
Yeah.
Um, but
Well, India Willoughby believes that he has turned into a woman through hormones. So
he's actually managed to grow himself a cervix, apparently.
so
And
he's
the
exactly the same as a biological woman.
yeah, yeah.
So to say you're the same as a biological woman, it's like a fake, bag or watch that you buy. They're just not the same.
That's another thing as well that really pisses me off. I wasn't told that I had this, but one of the ways that women are referred to when they're giving birth, if their cervix doesn't open quick enough, is they're told that they have an incompetent cervix.
What?
Yeah, it's a medical term.
My
How,
God, how negative.
and I had that when I had my first baby. They wanted to give me a cesarean because my cervix wasn't opening quick enough. And it's just birth doesn't work like that, and I've really realized that now. But when I was having him, everything was moving a lot quicker. I went into labor my labor started at about 1 a.m., but I managed to get some more sleep. But by 5 a.m. it was going.
Yeah.
And when I went to the hospital, it was really lovely. I had my midwife there, and I had COVID and my family had COVID. So I was there on my own.
Oh, no.
But thank God I had the best midwife that I could ever imagine having. But after a couple of hours, I was faced with like 4 doctors telling me that I'm probably needed to get a cesarean again.
Was
And
that
I
because
was
the
like,
baby was so big?
well, yeah, the baby was big, but my family do have big babies. And my
Yeah.
mum birthed 4 of us, big
Well,
baby.
you're quite tall as well, so
Yeah,
you're
I'm tall.
different to a smaller stature woman
Yeah,
that have the room.
exactly. But I
Yeah.
felt very capable and I felt very ready and very prepared to birth my baby. But the doctors, for some reason, thought I needed a cesarean. And
Do you
I
think
told
they
them,
just wanted you to hurry up?
I
You know,
think they did, yeah.
yeah, because of, rather than take your time and do it naturally, it's
But in,
just,
in my mind, it was fast anyway, because I felt like I was progressing very quickly. But they were worried about the baby. And I know any pregnant woman will tell you they've been pregnant for that long. They know your baby. You know when the baby moves, you know how he reacts to things, you know a lot about your baby when you're pregnant with them. And they wouldn't listen to me. I knew my baby didn't move that much in the morning. And anyway, they did some tests on him and they all came back fine. So they said they would let me continue, but they went back on that. And about an hour later, they came back in and said, "We need to get the baby out. We need to give you a cesarean." And I was like, I had to really fight my corner at a time when a woman is really vulnerable.
yeah,
You don't expect to be fighting with
yeah.
4 doctors telling you that you need a cesarean
Did,
when you know you don't need one and you don't want one.
did you give feedback
I
about?
haven't yet, no. I did after when I was in hospital because I was in hospital for another few days, and I did tell them how it made me feel, and I did manage to avoid the cesarean, but I was on the operating table,
Yeah,
ready to have this bloody cesarean that I didn't want,
yeah.
but then I managed to have him. I have been so shocked at how the hospital made it so hard for me to get my breast milk to my baby. And
That's weird, isn't it? Because they always say um, that breast milk is the best. You're trying to prevent it.
I just think there's a huge war on anything that women do. The medical professionals,
Maybe it was
far
always
much.
there.
They feel like they can do it better than a woman can do it.
Yeah, maybe it was always there, and this gender ideology has sort of woken everyone up to, it wasn't as great as what we thought it was, that we were gaining some sort of equality. And then because you start looking at it in a different way, you see that there never really was.
Mm. Well, I mean, every baby in the nursery was on formula. And that's no judgment on the women,
Yeah.
on the mums who are giving their babies formula. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is they have made it so hard for mums to breastfeed their babies. For a start, we were on a different floor to our babies.
God.
You're so sore after you give birth for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So making the journey down to the corridors and in the lifts to deliver the baby the milk multiple times a day, multiple times a night, I can totally understand how women would just can't do it, especially if you've had a cesarean.
Oh, well, he's here now.
He's here now. Yeah, he's here now, and it's another one to add to our
He's a term.
army.
He's a term. You know,
Exactly. Exactly.
God, isn't he lucky he's got you as a mother?
But how don't you think that's how we're going to kind of win this though? Because it has to be a generational change now.
Yeah. Yeah. There has to be.
And I think TERF mums are for the win.
Yeah.
But anyway, but what I do want to mention when I was in the hospital and I was making my zombified, exhausted trek down to the baby to give him milk, I came across on the maternity ward in the Royal Brisbane Women's Hospital, their gender clinic. And in their gender clinic, when I looked around the court, well, it was signed as the sexual assault clinic. And when I looked in the window of the sexual assault clinic, I saw trans flags on the door, trans flags in love heart shapes, signs that said ally, we respect your pronouns.
So it was the actual gender clinic?
Trans extremist pride flag.
It's ridiculous. It's so sickening that everywhere you go, it's just pushed in your face. You can't even give birth without coming across something like that. You know, people are just sick of it. They're really, really sick of it. And, you know, and people are less forgiving for trans people. And it's only because it's pushed on you so much and you're made to feel like you're discriminated against because you're not part of the queer community. So, you know, you're second-class citizens. They're number one. Everything's about them. Be kind to them, you know, but we've got no consideration at all. We are second-class citizens.
Well, when I'm reading an article or a website or something like that, especially when I was pregnant, you're always Googling stuff. If I come across, you know, pregnant person or chest feeding or anything like that, I immediately stop reading and I'll go and find something else.
Yeah.
Because I think, why would I trust this article or whoever wrote this to tell me something true when they're referring to chest feeding or pregnant people?
Yeah, there's no credibility.
No, so why would a women's hospital, have trans flags and trans extremist pride flags on the maternity ward? Why would I think that they have the best interest of my baby at heart?
I mean, it's the women's. So
I know.
The oppression of women, it's there right in your face again. Just you know, it's just insane. I'm so sick of it. I'm fed up. I'm just so fed up with all this bullshit.
What is happening in the administration? Who said it was okay to put trans love hearts on a maternity ward in a sexual assault clinic?
So we've got hospitals, police, schools, just everywhere has been captured.
Yeah.
So, and this
everywhere.
is what the taxes pay for.
Yeah. I actually read a story on Redux. Spain, male soldier claims he is being discriminated against after being prevented from using female changing rooms. 42-year-old soldier who recently announced his gender transition is slamming the Spanish army for putting up obstacles to his use of female changing rooms. Francisco first began changing his legal documents in the spring of 2023, following the enactment of Spain's controversial trans law. So Spain changed their law where they said that to be trans, you don't have to do anything apart from change your legal documents.
Yeah. Oh, but that would never happen.
Francisco has boldly stated that he has no intention of changing his name or undergoing any alterations to his body. This is just crazy. He says, "I like my body, I am happy with it, and I do not intend to change it," adding that the only measures he has taken to complete his transition to female is altering his gender marker on legal documents.
Yeah. So you said he was in the army, didn't you? That he's challenged the army. So you would think if he's challenged the army would know if it was a frivolous complaint, that he was just testing it. But there's a lot of mentally ill men, and why not? We've always said that this is an open door for predators, and this guy is a predator.
Yeah.
So, Shannon Fentiman, there's another one for you.
Let's be inclusive. Anyone that identifies as a woman is a woman. And as the Minister for Women, I take a really inclusive approach. And we want to govern for all Queenslanders, but all people who identify as a woman are part of our policies and strategies to advance gender equality, because gender equality is inclusive. It's not one group advancing at the expense of another. Let's be inclusive and bring everyone with us.
She still probably denies there's any evidence globally. It's just unbelievable how much evidence there is now.
She's actively not listening and not looking at the evidence. Like, there's no way.
Oh, yeah, all that evidence that Sal Grover and Rachel Wong gave the committee after that public hearing, and they wouldn't even put it up on the website like they're supposed to do. And then they said that they still said there's no evidence globally.
Single-sex spaces are particularly important for victims of male-induced violence and trauma. Just because someone does not identify with their biological sex does not negate its existence. A law which allows anyone to change their legal sex because of a perceived gender identity is based on a falsehood. It enables any male to self-identify as a woman and access female-only spaces, services, sports, opportunities, and even lesbian events, and undermines the very purpose of single-sex spaces. It disables critical sex-based data collection, and it opens up loopholes for predatory men to exploit the system and gain unfettered access to vulnerable women and girls. This point was made recently by the UN in its critique of Scotland's similarly controversial bill, which was deemed so problematic by the UK government, it has just used an unprecedented veto power to block it. Despite the Attorney General's claim that there is no evidence trans women pose an increased risk to biological women, the actual evidence tells a very different story. The reality is, trans women are biological males, and in addition to data showing that they retain male patterns of violence, examples of women being harmed by them in female-only spaces abound. This past year, we have heard of trans women raping women in female-only prisons, hospital wards, and shelters. Sexual assaults by trans-identified males in female-only spaces are becoming disturbingly more common. But even the violation of one woman, should have been enough for self-ID laws worldwide to be abolished in an instant. Self-ID laws affect the rights and safety of all women and girls. I have had mothers and fathers tell me their daughters hold on to go to the bathroom all day because they are too scared to use the school bathroom with boys. I have had women contact me saying that aged care workers are required to dress biological men in female underwear and makeup as part of their sexual fetish. And I would strongly recommend that the committee read Submission 273 in this regard.
So they will never, ever admit.
I can't get my head around it, how this is still going on. Like, back in 2016-17, I thought this will be over soon. Everything that happened every story I read like this, I thought, okay, well, this is just going to wake people up.
Yeah.
It's not.
No, it doesn't. I don't understand why it doesn't.
It says in March of 2003, Spain dramatically relaxed its requirements for changing such documents.
2003 or 23?
2023.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's when he jumped on it. He did it as soon as he could. Striking down a requirement of the individual provide medical reports demonstrating they had gender dysphoria or were undergoing cross-sex hormone therapy. The only formalities Francisco had to complete were the presentation of his documents at the civil registry and waiting for a cursory 3-month period. Exactly what we're doing here, isn't it?
Yeah.
You literally just have to change your name on your documentation.
Yeah.
What predator wouldn't do that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This whole story, people should go and read this. It's absolutely crazy.
Your dog's behind you. He was looking at you just before. He's listening to what we're saying. What's your dog saying?
Chucky.
Oh, Chucky.
Oh, it's a treat for everyone watching. But this is what's happening in Queensland. You don't have to do anything to.
Yeah. Well, in the only state in Australia that hasn't introduced it yet is New South Wales, and they're doing that currently. So no matter where you are in Australia, it's the same thing. They don't have to do anything.
Do you have any information on when this sex self-ID, has it already been passed? Why is it taking so long?
It was passed last year. It's, and the hate speech laws, they both still haven't come in. I can't get an answer from government. They ignore me.
Why do you think they haven't come in?
That's the mystery. Why haven't they come in? Some people believe maybe it's Sal Grover's case, that in April it goes to the federal court. But then no matter what happens in the federal court, Roxy Tickle will take it to the High Court if Sal wins. If Tickle wins, Sal will take it to the High Court. So holding off like this, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because it's going to take so much longer anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be another year after the High Court, not the High Court, the federal court challenge in April. Could take another 12 months because you don't just put in, it's not immediate. I don't think it would be that. It's really confusing as to why. Well, it makes no difference because they're still doing whatever they want anyway, these men. But they can't legally do it. But, if, say, a trans identifying males in a female toilet flashing himself, you call the police, what are they going to do? They're going to say, well, it has been passed, this law, just hasn't come into effect yet. And then it's your word against his that he was flashing, because we all know that they disbelieve women and will always take a trans woman's word for it because they're the honest ones. And we're the liars. We're the bigots. We're the transphobes. Yet we're the ones that believe in reality and the truth, because nothing that comes out of the gender ideologues, anything they say, you cannot trust anything that they say.
Yeah, but this is really worrying because this man has just totally taken everyone for a ride. You can tell.
Yeah.
It says, I could not continue using a locker room contrary to my gender, so I requested the use of the locker room that corresponded to my gender, which I understand should be female, since I am a woman.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is just,
it's the
Spain. Shame on you, Spain, for allowing that.
Yeah. Yeah, but we see this type of thing all the time right around the world. And
let's talk about the Australia's broad support for historic South Australia transgender inquiry.
Yeah. Yes.
So this is Australia's first ever parliamentary inquiry into gender dysphoria. which will be put to a vote in South Australia on Wednesday, with several Conservative Labour MPs prepared to back the plan amid a surge in transitioning cases in South Australia. I didn't even realise that Labour had Conservative MPs.
Yeah, it's the left and the right faction. So they'd be in the right faction. The problem with Labor, though, they don't allow a conscience vote. So you have to
Can you
agree.
explain that? Because in this article, it does talk about a conscious vote, and I kind of thought that meant that they were allowing Labour MPs.
I think what they want Labor to do is to allow a conscience vote. I can't see that South Australian Labor would be any different to the rest of the state or the federal Labor, where they're not allowed an opinion. They have to vote with the party. So maybe it's that. You know, they could still do it. They can still vote for it, but they'll be in trouble with the party.
I can't understand how a Conservative Labour MP would survive in that party, because surely they would have to go against what the majority of them are voting for most of the time.
I don't believe the majority of Labor politicians do agree with it.
No.
I think they're like us. I think they've got to shut their mouth and they're being controlled. I honestly don't believe that the majority of Labor politicians do
Who
agree.
do you think they're being controlled by?
Well,
groups
the
that
same people that have controlled the world with it.
Yeah.
So, you know, how have they been able to capture the police force, you know, schools? How have they been able to capture all our institutions? So who is it? What is it that makes them so afraid? And we don't hear much from the Liberal Party about it. They're pretty closed-mouthed to it. So, and they should be coming out because people are leaving the left in droves. So if the Liberal Party just opened up this conversation and got it going, they'd be on a winner. Bring it out into the public domain, start talking about it. What's stopping them from doing that? So why are they so quiet about it? I mean, in Queensland, they voted against sex self-ID, but I've not seen any Liberal politician in the state of Queensland come out and speak against it. So what is it? Why are they so scared?
I suppose it will all come out with time. What was perpetuating this whole movement, because the whole trans ideology makes zero sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's just completely wrong.
It's patriarchy, isn't it? So it's oppressing women, definitely. It's also, well, we know they want to get to the children. That's obvious. So, you know, breaking down the barriers so they have free access to children. And that's what they're doing in schools, is you've got teachers that are telling kids they were born in the wrong body and grooming them at school. And why do you groom a child? There's only one reason anyone would groom a child. And that's exactly what it is. It's grooming. It's not telling a child they can be whoever they want, because most kids probably want to be a dinosaur. You know, if you didn't put that into their head that they were born in the wrong body, you can be whoever you want. I'll be a dinosaur. I'll be a duck. I've got a friend and she was saying when her niece was 6 years of age, she was saying that when she grew up, she wanted to be a duck. So, you know, it's just, that's how they think. That's their childhood.
Yeah. Well, my 2-year-old's been a mermaid today, so I might arrange for her to have her legs amputated and replaced with a fish.
Yeah.
Well, she knows who she is, and I shouldn't be arguing with that.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
The inquiry will examine all facets of treatment and support for young people with gender dysphoria, the model by which their condition is assessed, and the process by which puberty blockers and hormones can be administered and operations approved. Just that sentence is crazy, blocking the puberty of children and sex change operations for children. I just can't believe this is real.
Yeah.
I wonder if the average person actually understands that they're doing operations on children, like sex change
Yeah, but
operations.
there's more and more people that are waking up. I mean, look at Rip Curl. Look at the backlash with that. And Rip Curl, although they didn't apologise, it only took a couple of days. So that just goes to show.
That Rip Curl thing was just, I mean, hilarious, to be honest with you. They deserve to just completely die.
Yeah.
Rip Curl as a company, I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah.
They just deserve to just completely fade away now. That is just so offensive. And I don't usually use that word.
Who would buy Rip Curl now? So in case people don't know what happened, do you want to go through that, Leah?
Yeah.
What happened?
Rip Curl trends for 2 days after iconic Australian surf brand boots female surfer for trans-identified male.
Seth Lowison is his name.
Yeah, we've talked about him before, actually.
Yeah.
So I didn't know Rip Curl was an Australian brand, but yeah, they're an Australian brand that specialise in swimwear for surfers. And they've basically booted this girl off who has lost an arm to a shark attack. They've got rid of her from their ad campaigns and replaced her with this absolutely
revolting
man who pretends to be a woman, called Sasha Lowison. And he was quite successful, I think.
Yeah, as a male, yeah, he was.
As a men's surfer.
Yeah, but he's now in his 40s, so probably not competitive in the men's category. So he's moved across to the female category and is number one in I think it's longboard surfing.
Yeah.
So he's won the Women's Australian Championship for 22 and 23. So, and all those photos he's put of himself up on social media in women's lingerie, and he's just revolting. So any man that says he's a woman, you know, it's just, and some of the lingerie has been see-through, like he's fully intact as well.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he's a man with a fetish, and he's got a son. I think he was married before with a son. So he's porn saturated. And he's such an ugly woman.
When you hear that they've got young kids, it's always like, oh God, what that child must be going through.
Yeah.
The embarrassment of that.
Yeah. So it's embarrassing enough. And then when he puts photos of himself on social media in women's lingerie and, you know, what he thinks are seductive poses, you know, makes it even worse. So, yeah.
And that is what is needed to just be a woman these days. Just pop on a piece of lingerie, grow your hair out, maybe slap on a bit of lipstick, and yeah, welcome to the club.
Yes. But as the trans identifying men say, trans women are better women than women. So they're the top class women, and any woman that was born a woman, which is really the only type of woman, is second rate. So yeah, so that the backlash against Rip Curl, like the hashtag was, you know, like rest in peace curl.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a big backlash, and it took a couple of days, and they removed the post from social media, you know, where they showed him as the new, what do you call it, figurehead, or, you know, for women's, he was the one that was promoting women's surfing a man promoting women's surfing. So,
But
whether
they've been platforming him for a while now.
yeah, but they hadn't put him in though in place. What was her name? Bethany Hamilton.
Yeah, Bethany Hamilton. Yeah,
And she, the shark attack happened when she was 13, and she came back and competed in the women's category, not in the disabled, and was winning. She's an incredible,
wow,
such a, you know, for young girls that want to surf,
wow.
such an incredible icon. And so they removed her because last year she, like most women, when they talk about men in women's sports, they're not over the top. They just say it as it is. It's not with any aggression or anything like that, just, you know, saying how it's unfair for women to be competing against men. And that's what they did to her. And now they're saying that she voluntarily left Rip Curl, I think it was November last year. But what were the conditions around that voluntary leaving? Did they want to put her through indoctrination like many of them want to do? You know, if you stay, you've got to have this training. So maybe she just refused to do that. And so they're saying she left voluntarily, but what were the conditions? Why did she leave? She's been with them for over 20 years. So.
Has she said anything about it?
I personally think that the best solution would be to create a different division so that all can have a fair opportunity to showcase their passion and talent. And I think it's really hard to imagine what the future of women's surfing will be like in 15 to 20 years down the road if we move forward allowing this major change. But we are seeing glimpses of male-bodied dominance in women's sports like running, swimming, and others. My hope is that if I ever have a daughter who is competing in surfing or any sport, and also for all the aspiring young generation of women, to have a bright and promising opportunity in her ambition to be the best of the best woman in her sport. I personally won't be competing in or supporting the World Surf League if this rule remains. Thanks.
But Rip Curl need to come out and apologise because it's very anti-woman. If they're trying to promote women's surfing, that's not promoting women's surfing. It's promoting men in women's sports. So it's an insult to women.
I find myself saying it so many times. How is this real?
Yeah.
How is this real?
It still doesn't seem real, does it?
No.
Will we get to a point, like I found out about it 2 years ago, I'm still, I don't know, in shock about it. And do you get to a point where you just, I don't know, where you just don't feel that way? Because things keep happening all the time. You think, oh, nothing could be worse than this. Well, yes, it can. It just keeps happening all the time. Look what happened with Queensland Rail just recently. So someone was trying to access the organisation Sex Matters, and it came up that it was blocked because it was because of terrorism and hate.
Who would have banned that then, that domain?
Queensland Rail came back and said, you know, errors do happen. There's no error in that. I reckon it's a rogue employee.
Yeah.
I reckon, it's a rogue employee and they've done it. So, but Queensland Rail should have come out and said, look, we're really sorry, we're investigating this, but that wasn't the message. So it'd be interesting to know whether or not they unblock that site. And I think any employee that does that without authorisation should automatically be fired because that is hateful. You know, Sex Matters is bloody, how could it be a terrorist group?
Well, we're Nazis, so.
Yeah, it's just insane. It really is. And, you know, they do need to apologise, Queensland Rail. And I wonder if they've got it sorted out yet. I guess someone needs to go on the train and try and log in and see if it comes up.
But they won't apologise, because that would be that would be them admitting that they were in the wrong, and by apologising, they'll get backlash.
Yeah, from the trans extremists.
How is this ever going to end? That's
The thing is, the longer it goes on, and it has to end, their backlash is going to be against the politicians and every organisation that has allowed this to happen, because they've enabled them. And so when they turn around and they take it from them, the targets will be the politicians. But unfortunately, I think there'll be a time where they're new politicians, and the politicians that allowed it, like Shannon Fentiman, will probably move on, because her career, once this is done and dusted, I don't think as a lawyer, who would want to go and seek advice from her? So all the anger from the trans extremists will be directed towards the people that come in and change it.
I just think these people are just going to claim, I didn't know.
It's very hard though, isn't it? Like, there are certain politicians that can't turn around and say, I don't know. Like with the Queensland government, with that public inquiry, all the submissions, they can't say they didn't know. You know, there's something like 300 odd submissions from people giving, explaining why sex self-ID, or, you know, the registration, the birth marriages. And then with Sal and Rachel providing a lengthy document with all the examples of violence towards women and children from men identifying as women, and they wouldn't even acknowledge that. So it's very hard for them to turn around and say, oh, I didn't know. They do know. They've been told many, many times. And the fact that women's groups have wanted to seek counsel with Shannon Fentiman, and she's just refused to meet with any women's groups. So, and why she refused? She's the Minister for Women. Yet she'll meet with men, you know, all through the consultation with the men identifying as women. She gave them, you know, a lot of opportunity to speak. So she's not the Minister for Women. She's the Minister for trans-identifying men. And her credibility and her career, and she deserves it. She really does deserve it. A backlash. I don't wish her any harm, but she does deserve the backlash, like people not wanting to seek counsel from her as a lawyer. And hopefully, you know, law firms won't pick her up because she'll be just toxic. Can you imagine when it's done and dusted, like a law firm looking at hiring Shannon Fentiman? Oh, my God, no. She really has destroyed her own career. But you can't feel sorry for her. She doesn't deserve any sympathy.
Oh, I don't feel sorry for her at all. I just feel like these people just wiggle their way out of stuff like this though all the time.
Yeah, but this is pretty massive. We've never had anything like this in history. You know, the insanity of it. It's just completely and utterly insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose that's why it is important to write to your MPs or have things on paper or emails. Write the submissions, so when they do turn around and say they didn't know,
yeah, the evidence is there.
The evidence is there that they were, well, we did try and tell you.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, I would love to be a fly on the wall to whoever she's talking to, because I feel like a fully grown woman can't believe this stuff, you know. A fully grown woman with the job title of Minister for Women can't believe that a man can be a woman. It's impossible for her to believe that.
Yeah. It's just quite astounding, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah. People who I just thought were rational, normal people who have fallen for this.
But they're so hateful about it though, aren't they?
Yeah.
You want to talk about it. They speak down to you. They treat you like you're the one with the mental problem. That's what's so frustrating is, you know, that But it's like, I guess, Leah Thomas, when he was swimming in the women's category over in the US last year, and the women on the team weren't told anything about him, and fully intact man goes into the change rooms, and that's the first they know about it. And then when they complained about it, they were told that they needed to go seek counselling to understand why they're such bigots.
Definitely be moments where I would feel really uncomfortable and just caught off guard. So for example, like I would be changing my locker and I would just, there's always people talking in the locker room, in the background, behind you, wherever. Sometimes occasionally, like I would just hear a male sounding voice and kind of just jump up and be like, oh my gosh, someone who's not supposed to be in here is here. And then I would just jump myself back to reality and just say, okay, actually, wait, that's just one of my teammates who sounds pretty masculine and they're supposed to be here and I can't believe I'm reacting this way. And I would kind of feel uncomfortable and then walk myself back. Again, I want this to be clear. Leah is not a predator. Leah did not do anything bad to us, never would have. I never suggested that they would have. It's just the idea that there might be inviting somebody who has bad intentions into our locker room. You were told there was nothing we could do about it. Our coaches said, no, like this person's on the team, they're going to be in the locker room. People just felt hopeless. It wasn't that they didn't have opinions about it.
They're the ones with the problem, not Will Thomas, who now identifies as Leah Thomas, a fully intact man.
I think he did chop his balls off.
Yeah.
And put them in a jar.
Fetish. Well, that's a fetish too, though, isn't it?
Yeah. These blokes, we shouldn't have listed. Imagine if these blokes were just told no from day one, like every single one, hard line, no, can't come into our space, no, you're not a woman.
Yeah.
No, they've never heard the word no.
No, that's the problem. They've never heard the word
I feel
no.
like there might have been a big movement 20 odd years ago or something of parents not telling their kids no. Sure, I've heard about that. Like you should, the parents went through this phase of trying to not tell their child no anytime, and I think that's what we're seeing.
But it's also like at school where, in prep, they graduate from prep. They all get a certificate, no matter how they do, that they're all winners. So they've never lost. They don't know what losing is like. They just can't accept it. So, yeah. So if you never
say no to my kid, to my daughter all the time.
But they need to hear it. That's reality. Because when they do get to adults and they've never heard the word no, they can't accept it.
Yeah. Any other stories that you know
We've got
of?
one where Lee Hazel, who's got multiple sclerosis.
Oh, yeah. The article is called How Australian Law Pushes Vulnerable Women Towards Hiring Male Carers, which is insane and horrifying.
Yeah.
So Lee Hazel has MS and wants quite reasonably and rationally a female carer for herself. And has she already applied for the
Yeah, she's applied and it got knocked back.
It got knocked back. So basically she has to accept care from anyone, man or woman, if they identify as a woman.
Yeah, if they identify. So maybe the amount of men that would be rushing into caring roles, ones with the fetishes.
Well, we've just seen the story of the man who, as soon as Spain changed their rules, has now no intention of changing anything about himself apart from his name, his gender, on his gender. So why wouldn't men take advantage of this?
Yeah. And it's only predatory men that would want it. I mean, there are men that go into caring, but they're not men that say that they're women. They could, who knows if even some of them decide. I mean, they're not all predators. We know that, but it's the predators that will take on the identity.
Any man who goes into a caring role should understand that if he's caring for a woman, he might not be the right one. There are loads of women out there who might feel absolutely fine with it.
Yeah.
And that's fine, good for them. But there are women who are not okay with it.
But look at the men that dress up as women. You know, they're highly sexualized. Imagine as you're unwell and here comes your carer, and you just, even that Sasha Lowison, like if he came in, he's creepy looking.
Yeah, yeah. Especially when you're in such a vulnerable state as well.
Yeah.
Women are, it doesn't need to be said that women are a lot more vulnerable than men. We're in situations in our lifetime that make us way more vulnerable than men, a lot more of the time.
Yeah.
And this is just absolutely mental that we're not taken seriously.
Yeah.
Our quite normal and reasonable demands for wanting a female carer, they're just not listened to.
So in that article,
we
it's,
had that with Bella on our
oh, that's right. Yeah.
previous episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who had the same in a private hospital, was denied female care.
Yeah.
It's
So
happening all the time.
with the Sex Discrimination Commission, it's got their response in that article too, doesn't it? What they said. So
Yeah.
basically just denied.
While there are permanent exemptions for sex in relation to employment to perform domestic duties at a person's residence, including where needed to preserve decency or privacy, these permanent exemptions do not extend to gender identity. It says that ultimately the relationship between sex and gender identity in sex discrimination law will have to be tested in court. Why?
Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't
Why?
it?
Why do they need to be?
Yeah. Okay, Lee's won 5 of her cases now. Yeah, and so she's won 5 of them, and I think it was Edie that said the punishment is the process.
Yeah.
And I think that's right too. That's the punishment. You know, you win the court case, but what they've put you through and how much it's cost you is the punishment for not believing that a man could ever be a woman.
So eventually they just want everyone to just, and I can understand, I can see that, not that I can see that happening, but I can understand how women will just be like, fuck this, I've had enough, and
Yeah.
I can't even look at any of this anymore. Because it's just, it's death by 1,000 cuts, this.
Yeah. It's just to wear people down.
Yeah.
It is tiring, isn't it?
But we will still crack on and we will carry on doing what we can. And we have a speaker's corner coming up.
Yes. So
on the 3rd of March.
Yeah, Sunday the 3rd of March.
Sunday the 3rd of March, 12 midday. Anybody in Brisbane or able to get to Brisbane Parliament, please come along.
Yeah.
And we're starting off again for this year for our speakers' corners.
Yeah. Yeah.
Usually get a fair few women coming along and talking, and men as well, but mostly women.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been to one before, make this your year where you come along.
Yeah. Yeah. And also if you want to speak, it's a good opportunity to get up there and say what you think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Around women who feel the same and are very supportive and agree, and
it does really help, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To feel like you're isolated with all of this, it must be really frustrating, and you'd feel alone, and you wouldn't realise that there are so many women and men that don't agree with what's going on. It's a vast majority of people. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is. And we know it's the vast majority of people, because everything about gender ideology is just wrong. And if you just think about it for more than 5 minutes, you understand that it's just all bullshit.
Yeah, complete.
So to come out and actually just speak about things, normal things, reality, talk about things that are important, which is our dignity, our privacy, our safety as women, to speak about that together with other women is
It's fantastic, isn't it?
it
It's really-
is. It really is. Yeah. And then we go to the pub after.
yes, that's always a highlight as well.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
All
we
right.
it's always good to go back to the pub and, you know, have a drink and then talk about issues, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's really good.
And we do have a laugh as well.
Oh yeah, well, you have to, don't you? Can you imagine if you didn't? You're not
All
allowed.
right. Well, should we say goodbye there
Yeah,
until next time? Now, I've had a baby on me the whole time I've been talking, and he's been so good.
he's incredible.
So, yeah. So, sorry if I've been bouncing around a bit,
No, that's okay.
but yeah. When you're breastfeeding, pumps
Now
milk
you
out.
will be triggering a lot of men there that think that they're women.
There will never be a man in this position having a baby.
Yeah,
It will just never happen. A man will never give birth.
yeah. And
You
if
know.
there's anyone out there that lives near the women's hospital, go check out that gender clinic.
Yeah.
Let us know what you see. And if
Yeah.
you ask any questions, yeah, let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right then.
Okay.
Well, nice to be back.
Yeah, it's good to see you back too, Leah. Okay.
All right, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.